Now do we have sound? We'll go check. So people are losing their houses because they don't know this exists. They don't have the equity to list with a realtor. They may not know how to um, have things repaired at a fair price. We're talking about that. Mike and I were talking about that a while ago with another investor I work with. That investor got a quote for an electrical job that came in at $17,000. My electrician quoted the same job between $4,000 and $5,000. Okay, so that's what happens when people don't know who to talk to, and they just call somebody. Used to back in the day, we used to call off the phone book. We don't do that anymore. We call off the Google or whatever internet search. So, but people wind up losing their houses because the realtor says, I can't help you. Or even worse, a realtor will list the house overpriced and it won't sell. And a lot of times those sellers won't tell the realtor how bad things are, and because they're embarrassed, and it doesn't sell. And now the realtor's the bad person in that transaction because they can't sell their house and it's overpriced and needs repairs. And they can't do repairs. They don't want to do repairs, or, in some cases they don't want to show the house. So there you go. So helping others like nobody else can. Every subject to that I've done, that I've taken down myself, that I'm involved with the seller, I keep a relationship with them because I'm in business with them for the life of that loan. Okay. So, and then to do this, you must have a loan in place. We always, every time I hold a informational deal like this, somebody will come out and say, hey, I've got a property out there that doesn't have a loan. How do I do a subject to? Well, you don't. You do owner finance on that situation, if that's the case. So was it because this was turned off? Okay. So we have that. So you're dealing with the existing mortgage, staying in place, and making that happen. So this was one of my first deals. This is actually my second subject to deals. I got 4 houses in this. We talked about this a little bit earlier with Mike and a couple others back in the back. But this is a guy that was an investor. He thought he wanted to be an investor. He got remarried, and his wife from the second marriage did not want him to have rental houses because it was stressing him out. He just was stressed out all the time, even though he didn't have any problems. He had a property manager, had a couple of property managers, and he had no problems, had long-term tenants in there, and minor little repairs here and there, whatever it may have been. So this guy came to me, and he had these properties. He just wanted to be done. So all 4 were cash flowing. All 4 had leases. All 4 had long-term tenants in there that were great tenants. Okay. So this is the equity in the 4 properties: 17, 37, 14,000, and 38,000. So a total of $107,000 in equity when I closed. Okay. When I bought those properties, they already had built-in equity. Do all subject twos have equity like this? No, but these did. Okay. And the cash flow was a little over $2,000 a month when I bought it. This was about 15 years ago, 16, 17, 18 years ago, I guess now. So I went to the title company. We wrapped all 4 properties into one title policy. And the title policy was the price of the most expensive house. Okay, was the most expensive mortgage on the title policy. So we wrapped all 4 of them in there. The chances, I took the chances of anything bad happening, I took that chance on myself. So I made that happen. I closed in a little less than 2 weeks on that. He was very happy. So he was concerned about the tenants. And he said, I don't want the tenants to know I'm selling the house. And I said, okay, tell the tenants you're bringing in a partner. And I'll come there and I'll be the partner, and I need to see the houses. Never, ever, ever close on a house that you can't see the inside of, right? You don't know what it is. So I went in there, told him I was going to be his partner, and all the tenants were great. Quick little story. The first one I talked to was a single mother, had 2 young teenage daughters. And first thing she said is, we're moving. I'm breaking the lease. I don't care about the deposit. I'm breaking the lease. I said, why are you moving? Because of the property manager. What's wrong with the property manager? Well, this guy was about late 80s, early 90s. He was a very older gentleman. And she says, we've woken up twice, and he's been in the house standing at the end of our bed, at the end of my bed or the end of my daughter's bed, staring at us while we wake up. He's creepy. And I'm like, yeah, that's creepy. He's going to be fired. So I do my own property management. So so we kept them. She stayed in there another two to 3 years in that house. So I go to the next house, and it was a couple, and she worked nights and he worked days. And she said that 3 or 4 times she had woken up and this property manager standing at the end of her bed while she's sleeping in the day. And I said, we're going to get rid of him. And by the way, I told them all that we're going to put keyless deadbolts in the doors, and which are supposed to be by the state law anyway. They weren't done. The property manager didn't do them because he had an alternative mode of standing at the end of people's beds. And so I went to the third person that he managed, and I said, hey, what do you think about the property manager? And she's like, oh, he's great. Best property manager ever. We love him. He's super. We never have a problem. Oh, and by the way, he's my grandpa. So, and they were the first ones to leave. They built a house. We worked with them. So you never know what's happening out there. The guy I bought them from had no clue that this property manager was doing that. The tenants did not have his information to contact. So the only person they could complain to was the property manager. Okay, so we took care of that. I sold the homes over the next 5 years. That was an agreement that you never promise somebody I'll have your name off the loan in a certain period of time. But I said, as the market can work it, I will get those sold or I'll get them refinanced, because he's an optician and he was buying an optical. In about 4 years, he called me up and says, the optician I worked for has passed away. I'm going to buy optician thing out of a Walmart store, but I need these houses gone away. I'd already sold one, and so we made a deal, and I got them refinanced and got his name off just because he's a nice guy. He's my optician now, so he's been since that day. So so we sold them all over the next 5 years. Owner financed a couple of them. They got refinanced because the interest rates started going down, and so we made that happen. But the people that are in them, whenever I have a tenant, I will always tell them, my goal is I want to sell you my house. I would love for you to buy this house. I'll owner finance it to you. Here's my regulations on that. Here's what we're going to do on that. You know, so I want 10% down. We're going to make it very affordable for you. We're going to do all that kind of stuff. So my tenants take very good care of my properties. I do not have a property today that has not been repainted by my tenants. That's huge. I've had granite countertops put in. I've had new kitchen cabinets put in. I've had new air conditioning ducts put in. A lot of new flooring. And every house I have has been painted, at least on the outside, if not the inside and outside. And I have to approve the paint. I don't even buy the paint. They do it all on their own, okay? Because they have ownership. They think they're going to buy the house. Do they all buy the houses? No. I've had people put tons of money in, and then they get a job opportunity in another state. I work with them, and they leave the house usually as good or better than they got the house, okay? So 2 of those I sold with owner finance. So these are some recent students that I have. Scott, we just closed on that property this week. That's over in Mississippi. So the mortgage he took over is 140, and it's at 5.6%. That's the beauty about Subject 2, is you're getting these low interest rates. So I wanted to. I've got several of these that we're going to talk about. Brandon, Fort Worth, we closed. So Scott got $92,000, almost $92,000 in equity on that house. Do you always get $92,000? No. But you normally get some good equity on that. And we're going to talk about how that equity works out. So Brandon in Fort Worth got $11,000. April, she got 7 properties. Okay, I only have 1 on here, but she got 7 properties, and 2 of them were duplexes. And she got them Subject 2. And so she's working the deal. We normally try to distance ourselves from the bank, but we don't hide from the bank. So the bank knew this transaction was going on. It's a local bank in East Texas, out near Tyler. And so she got 2 duplexes. She made about $30,000 per duplex. But then the bank came back and said, hey, they've got 5 more properties. Is that something you might want to talk to her about? Because we love this concept, because now we got somebody else paying that loan. And she's getting a divorce. I think she's brain damaged because she's moving to California. Her husband's moving to Colorado, so they were getting divorced and all that kind of stuff was happening. So April wound up with 7 of those houses, but she only kept the 2 duplexes. The other 5 properties that she got, she wholesaled those out, keeping those in the subject twos, but wholesaled them out, and she got some cash there. She got plenty of cash to do her next deals. Okay, so Thomas over in Florida, he wound up with $138,000 in equity. And look at these interest rates that these people are picking these houses up at. And Joshua in Illinois, $29,000. Ricky over in Belton, Texas, $94,000. Lewis, these are all students that's gone through this training. Okay, $250,000 in California. That's like $20,000 in Texas money, but it's $250,000 in California money. Doesn't go far, but that's what he got. Yeah, look at that interest rate, 2.8%. How awesome is that? How many of those do you have to do to really change how your life works? You'll take them all. There you go. So, and there we go. So the subject to process that we have here. So the first thing you're going to do, whoa, that really moved fast. First thing you're going to do is you got to find a motivated seller. How are you going to find a motivated seller? How are we going to make that happen? All right. You can't put a sign out there and say, subject to, I will buy your house subject to. They don't know what that is. So you've got to learn how to market that. Everybody has my book. There's about 30 different marketing strategies in that book to get subject tos. Don't go into a lot of detail on that, just kind of going over the basics of it. But it's not going to hold your hand and walk you through it step by step, but it will give you enough information that you can pick those up, like what we've done with Tommy. Okay. So, wow, there we go. So we have the motivated seller. So the first thing you want to do is you really want to try to meet the seller at the house if possible. If it's a rent house, you make arrangements like I did with the optometrist. If it's somebody lives out of town, the house is vacant, they'll have a family member meet you there or whatever. You're going to do your negotiations with the primary owner of the house, not through a secondary ownership. So, so you're going to meet them at the property. This is kind of weird. Okay. Then you're going to get the property under contract. So when you meet them at the property, I carry my contracts in my car. The contracts I use are the Trek 1 to 4 party contracts, which is what all the realtors use. The reason I use those is every title company in the state of Texas is familiar with that Trek contract. Okay. And then we do the same thing in other states, whatever it may be. So you get the property under contract, and then you're going to perform your due diligence afterwards. You don't have to worry about the value of a subject to property. All you're looking for is, can I cash flow this? If you get under contract, you can always get out of the contract. You do an option in there. But it's important to get it under contract at the time you meet them when you're first there, because if not, they're going to be talking to their father-in-law, they're going to be talking to their uncle, they're going to be talking to somebody at church, somebody at work, or the neighbor. Well, I'll do that. If you're going to give the house away, I'll do that, you know, and you lost the deal. Don't ever say, well, I need to go back and get contracts. I'll email them to you. We'll sign them on DocuSign or whatever. You don't want to do that. So you're going to do your due diligence. Then you're going to look at it and say, does this deal work? Well, I don't know. Is it going to work or not? We'll look at it and see. If it does not, then you're going to go back to the seller and you're going to renegotiate your terms. Okay? I've had sellers bring money to the table. I've had sellers give me product, not drugs, okay, not drugs, but I've got a lawn tractor. You can wind up with a boat. I know a guy that wound up with an airplane. Wasn't in great shape, but he could turn around and sell it. Okay, you can wind up getting tons of different things in the negotiations because, you know, they're wanting out of that house. That's their why. They want to take care of that. So you go back to the seller and negotiate. You're going to do all these 3 things again. You're going to get the property back under contract at a new price or new terms or whatever it may be. You're going to perform your due diligence again, and it works. And then what do? You take everything over to the title company and all your paperwork to the title company. Now, what title companies work with subject twos? They're like realtors. I'm a realtor. Okay. You come to me and say, hey, can you sell me the White House? I can do contracts. We can figure that out. Okay. Can you sell me a 40-story, office building? But can I really do that? Am I in that network to do that? So all title companies will say, yes, we do subject twos. And then it comes down to it, they don't know what they're doing. So this is why you want to be in a community. This is why you want to work with people and find the title companies that are out there that'll make that happen. Okay, then you're going to go and you close on the property. Do not let the seller stay in the property. You want them out of the property before you close. And you want to meet them at the property to make sure they didn't remove the air conditioner and the toilets. You want to make sure that that property is left broom clean. They've taken all their furniture out. They haven't left their pets, whatever it may be. And you're going to rekey the house. Okay, you're going to rekey that house. You're going to pop a lock sitting down the corner. You meet with them, say, hey, I'll meet you in the title company in 2 hours. Why don't y'all go have breakfast? And I'm just gonna be here at the house. I've got a contractor coming in. You have those locks changed. Okay, so they can't get back in. All right, so there we go. So on a subject to, is there money exchanged in a subject to? Ownership transfers with little money changing hands. You still have to pay the title company. In most cases, they're not listed with a realtor, so you're not having to bring realtor fees involved. I've never bought a subject to properties through the MLS. Okay, I've had realtors bring them to me, not listed, but I've never had them come through the MLS. So seller deeds the property to buyer at closing. That would be you, and mortgage remains in the seller's name. Is that moving or is that okay? I guess that. All right. So okay, and seller has no expectations of cash ever. This is a mistake that a lot of rookies make when they're doing subject twos. They promise the seller, oh, when I get it refinanced, I'm going to give you $20,000. Guess what happens the day after you close on the deal? Where's my $20,000? I need my $20,000 now. My grandmother has to have an operation. My kid has to have an operation. I need that $20,000 now. You told me you'd give me $20,000 after we closed. And you've got a nightmare. I don't want you going through that. I see investors go through that stuff all the time. Okay, if you're going to give them money for their equity, write them a note, give them so much money every month. Don't give them a lump sum. Don't promise them money down the street, or it's going to be a disaster for you. Okay, equity can be huge or it can be little. I did a property that had no equity in the property at all. Why would I do that? Why would you buy a subject to property with no equity in it? They just refinanced less than 90 days before we did the deal. And, it was an FHA. They refinanced pretty much at the value of that property, but it was a cash flowing property. I could rent it for $500 more than the mortgage payment was, including the taxes and insurance. So it was a no-brainer. I don't care what the property appraises for. The people that got a mortgage on it got the property appraised at the time they got the mortgage. Okay, and so that's all you got to worry about. If they brought a bunch of money to the table like they were doing 3 years ago, 2 years ago, that's all right. That's money they lost because they wanted that house. You have no control over that. So equity, I'm looking for cash flow. Okay, and then, so why do sellers want to sell subject to? What do they have in there? Well, maybe they're in default. Maybe they think they're in default. I promise you tonight, there are thousands. If you look out here in Dallas and look at all those lights out here, there's hundreds, if not thousands of people going to bed tonight, staring at the ceiling, figuring out, how do I get out of this mess? I'm in a mess. How do I get out? I don't have the equity in the house to sell with a realtor. I don't know what I'm doing. How many of us as investors have found for sale by owner signs in the yard, and you got to crawl down and look at that sign because they've written their phone number really small in pencil, and you're trying to figure out, they don't want to be called, but they want to satisfy their spouse and saying, yeah, we got a house for sale, and I can do this all myself. How many times we see furniture on the side of the freeway because somebody popped a strap and said, that'll hold it. And that's kind of what they're doing with the real estate. Okay. So they're stressing out 24/7. They need to move quickly. Okay. I've got a job. I'm being transferred to Atlanta, Georgia. I don't want a house. When I'm talking to people, I'll say, have you thought about leasing the house? Have you thought about getting a roommate? Have you thought about getting a second job? Have you thought about getting a job? Okay.
What are you looking at? Have you looked at Airbnb or whatever? Well, I've got 2 teenage daughters. We don't want strangers in our house. Get it? I wouldn't want that either. Okay, but sometimes they need to move quickly. Sometimes they just don't want the hassle of listing with a realtor. They just want it done. You know, hey, I'd be glad to put it under contract if you can let me live here to the end of May because my daughter or my son's graduating high school and we don't want to move. We don't want them to move schools. That happens all the time. It's a little hard to do with a realtor because now the realtor doesn't control the buyer, and the buyer says, no, we don't have a place to live. We want to be in there for Christmas. You know, and so you can do that and you can put it under contract. You don't close on it until the end of May or until June, but they have the peace of mind that the property is being sold. Okay, so they don't want to fix, or they don't have the money to fix. The house that I picked up one time, they had dropped a shampoo bottle in the tub, the shower tub, and it was a fiberglass, and it made a little bitty hole about the size of the end of my little finger, and they just were convinced the whole bathroom would have to be torn out and redone. They knew it was going to be a $20,000 job. Well, I had a guy go in there, and for less than $500, he also painted the tiles. He refiberglassed the tub, painted it. I still have that today as a rent house. I didn't have to put that $500 into it. I've had it repainted twice since then, and I've only had to pay for it twice. It's been repainted 3 times, that tub has. The second time, the guy that did it had a little moisture in there, and it flaked up pretty quick. So he came back and fixed it. So the tenants are happy. They're buying the house. They're excited about it. But they haven't closed on the house because they can't save that 10%. He saves it all year long. Wife goes in and buys a bunch of presents for her grandkids, and all that money goes away. So the next year it's rented again. So they have little or no equity to list with a realtor. We've talked about that. They are watching the news or social media. We're conditioned at what we see. Okay. I have traveled. I've done charity work all over the world. I've traveled all over the world. It is in some cases worse than what we ever see because we never hear about it. But in some cases, it's not. It's like, you know, I had a friend years ago in Beirut, and he was a customer when I was in another line of business. I used to be in the auto parts manufacturing business. He was a customer, and I'm like, why do you stay there? Because every night on the news, y'all are being bombed. He's like, no, we're not. No, we're not. I don't know. What are you talking about? You know? And he's like, oh yeah, they get over and they fight over in that area. You know, they're just always fighting, you know? And I'm like, well, that's what we hear on the news. It's like the whole town's been destroyed. No, it's not destroyed at all. Okay. So, and they're listening to their friends. We all have friends that want to give us advice. Okay. Anybody ever known the friend that's been married 7 times that was really willing to give marital advice? Okay. Yeah. Right. You got it. You got it down. Give all the marital advice you can. Okay. So this is kind of what they're seeing out there is they're seeing all these issues going on. Okay. They're seeing all these bad things happening. This is in the news. Every time we turn around, this is in the news. And this is all they're focused on. Anybody here, have you ever went and decided you were going to buy a car and it's going to be a red Mustang? You're just going to fall in love and you're going to buy that red. It's going to be so cool. You buy it, you drive home. There's like 40 red Mustangs driving home. You never saw one before you bought one. But then you're driving home, it's like, everybody's got a red Mustang. I don't have anything special at all. Darn. You know, so I guess I have to go back and buy that AMC Pacer that nobody else has, right? So, but this is what they're seeing. And this is what they're worried about. This is what they're scared about is all this stuff in the news. Okay. I used to be in the auto parts business. I did that for 20 years. I manufactured, had locations all over the country, sold all over the world. And I had, I had people that I don't even know where I was going with that. So we'll skip that. Okay, I'll come to that in a minute. But it is amazing how many people focus on things that aren't true. Okay, and getting advice from people they shouldn't get advice from. So this is kind of the signs that we've all seen these signs. I buy houses, I make your payments and phone number. Now, if you're going to do a sign, put the phone number on top because grass in Texas grows. And you don't want grass growing over. There you go. I buy houses.
So I've got a friend in Fort Worth. He goes to garage sales and estate sales. He has a T-shirt like Karen has that says "I buy houses," and he'll always get people at that garage sale or estate sale go, "Hey, do you buy houses?" Right? You've got a hat. I buy houses. People go, "Do you buy houses?" You know, no, I just wear the hat, right? So, so these are the signs that we see out there everywhere. Buy your house, take over your payments. I've got a friend, a student of mine. He found an old abandoned billboard, kind of in the bottomlands between Fort Worth and Arlington on Division. If you know anybody know where that is, he crawled up there. He found a phone number. He called the guy. The guy says he wants $500 a year. He said, "I'll pay you $200 or $250 a year." He goes to the sign store. He gets a banner made. He crawls up there. He ties a banner on there. Had that sign up there for about 3 months before the city of Arlington realized that the guy who owned the billboard wasn't paying the Arlington billboard tax, right? So the Arlington came in and tore down the billboard, but he wound up with about over $10 million worth of subject to properties from that billboard, and several, I think 3 of them were commercial properties. That was the bulk of the dollars. He was buying these properties that were just crazy, and these people owned these commercial buildings, didn't know what to do. I mean, so he did very well on those. He still has those today. I had lunch with him a while back. So I think I pointed this. There we go. So why would you, as an investor, be motivated to buy a subject to property? Well, first of all, there's very little money invested. You do not want to chase after the foreclosure list, because if you do, somebody has to pay the arrears on that, and then sometimes the banks don't want to work with you. So you don't have to qualify for a loan. Okay. Maybe you have too many mortgages in your portfolio. Maybe you've gone to the bank and the bank says, "Yeah, we'll finance you onto the house, but you got to sell one of yours before we'll let you finance another one, because you're at our max with the bank." So there's too many mortgages in the portfolio. The best part about this is helping people out of a bind. We have a big Halloween in our neighborhood. We just had it a couple of nights ago. The city comes in, blocks off the streets. We have between 7,000 and 9,000 people in the neighborhood for trick or treats. So we have a huge budget for candy. And I've learned over the years to buy stuff I don't like, because then that way I don't have to wear that candy at Thanksgiving. But I had 3 people I've done subject twos with coming by with their kids or grandkids Tuesday night. They said, "Hey, just wanted to say hi. Remember me? You bought my house. I'm still on their house, or it's owner financed, whatever. It's on a wrap." And and of course, I've tried to figure out who they were through their Halloween costume in some cases. But yeah, they're just happy to see me. Okay, I don't make myself a stranger. Okay, I'm not hiding from anybody. If anybody wants to find me, I'm very visible on the internet. I do put my houses under trust. You can't find those houses. I have 4 or 5 houses that aren't in trust because I'm lazy and I didn't put them in trust at the time, but that's okay. But people know where I live. I'm very involved in Rotary International. Okay, that's a service organization, about 1.4 million members worldwide. We're in almost every country in the world, and we do a lot of humanitarian projects around the world. Okay, if you go overseas, Rotary is more visible in many other countries than it is here. Even though it's founded here, it's headquartered here, we're very visible. I'm very, very visible. Okay, I do a lot of speeches. I was supposed to do a Rotary speech today at lunch, and we've moved that off to another date because they had somebody better than me come in to speak, I guess. So, but we worked that out last night. And the whole process here, this is easy to do. It's easy to do when you know what you're doing. Okay, so here's some more students that we have here. So Justin in Missouri, he bought 3 in a month. Okay, and he wound up with $196,000 in equity on those 3 properties he picked up in a month. Okay, and then this isn't the same Justin, but another Justin in Illinois, he bought 4 properties in 2 months is what he bought, one of our students, and he got $182,000 in equity. Okay, but look at those prices there. Look at those interest rates. Look at what Justin in Illinois did. He had a $33,000 house. a $33,000 mortgage. And but he got $40,000. He got more in equity on that house than that mortgage is. Okay, and not what he paid. He hadn't paid. He's paying that mortgage. So look at these interest rates that people are getting. These are current things that are happening. So what you're going to do is you're going to pre-screen the seller. God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. Use them accordingly. Listen to what the seller has. Anybody in here not know the TV show Columbo? Everybody know the TV show Columbo? What did he always say? Oh, by the way, and then he'd ask another question. Okay, and then the murderer was just, yes, you little short man, I did kill that whole family of 4, and I did it because of this, and he doesn't give a complete confession, like Murder, She Wrote. They always give the confession at the end. Okay, my 2 brother-in-laws were Dallas cops. One of them was a undercover, and he was a detective. And he says, you'd be amazed how many people confess to the murders. And he says, hey, you keep him in the room long enough. His deal was he never said a word. He just spit his tobacco in his cup and stare at him. And they'd finally confess to shooting Kennedy or whatever. They'd confess to anything. So, so you want to make sure the property's not listed. If it is, they've made a contract with that realtor. Something has to be done. And sometimes the realtor's like, I'm done with these people. Congratulations. I wanted to terminate 3 months ago. Other times they're like, no, we've got it on the market. You're either going to pay me a commission or you're not going to do it at all. Because you don't ever want to go around the realtor. There's a legal binding contract. So you want to make sure, is the property listed? If it is, okay, what's going on? Okay. And they may tell you their realtor's the worst person in the world. They may tell you, well, I will take care of the realtor fees. We just had one happen on that. Okay, that one in Mississippi I was talking about Scott had earlier this week. There was a realtor involved. Scott had to come to the table, pay that realtor, but there was enough equity in there that it was worth it to him. Okay, so he literally paid that realtor 6%, and they got both sides of the deal because it was a subject to. Realtor's happy, seller's ecstatic because she got out of that property. Scott's happy because he got a property with lots of equity. Okay, what kind of financing do they have? I made a mistake one time. I made a lot of mistakes. I'm married. You can talk to my wife. But I made a mistake one time. I just assumed the mortgage was a 30-year mortgage. He told me when the mortgage date was. And I got into it. It was 4.5 years into a 5-year commercial balloon because I buy a lot of properties from investors. And he had a commercial balloon payment on there. And so I had to make an arrangement with the bank until I got it refinanced. But I didn't know to look at that. That was early in my career. I didn't know to look. I just assumed every note out there was 30 years. I didn't have any question. I asked the seller. He thought it was 30 years. It wasn't. And he was mistaken. He just assumed it was. Okay. But we made that happen. So are they behind on payments and how much? So I have run into properties that people have gone 10 and 11 years without making a payment. And the bank has not foreclosed on. There's no way you can do that. I don't care what the situation is. There's no way you can make that work. Okay. Because the late charges are more than the mortgage. Okay. All right. And then do they have any liens on their property? They could have an IRS lien. You could buy a house and it could be your rent house forever because that lien is going to stay on that property. Now, most of the times, if it's like an IRS lien, that lien is going to follow the seller. IRS doesn't want to own property. They just want any equity that the seller gets. Okay. And then they're going to follow it. Same thing with child support, stuff like that. But you've got to make sure those aren't there. And that's why you always get a title policy. Okay. And then how much do they owe? Always ask them for a current mortgage statement. They will say, oh, I haven't got one. If they've ever filed bankruptcy, they're not going to get a mortgage statement. Okay. Because then that makes the mortgage company or the servicer as a debt collector. And by legally, if they filed bankruptcy, they cannot send them a new mortgage statement. So it can be inconvenient. So you got to go online. You got to log in. You got to take all that information and find out how much do they owe and are they behind? Are their taxes and insurance escrowed in? Okay. And whose name is on the loan? Okay. Terry, have you ever done a property that somebody didn't own? That somebody tried to get you to list the property and you find out later they don't own the property? That's happened to me several times. Okay. Yeah, they don't own the property. One was a tenant, thought they could make some extra money because they're going to sell their landlord's property. That's right. And
That guy's a senator today. No, I'm kidding. So, but so, but whose name is on that mortgage and what kind of liens do they have? Okay. And so what we do in our subject to all day classes that we now have graduated to this on the online courses is we have several short videos of various different things, and there are over 100 videos that we've recorded in there. But why would somebody be willing to walk away from their mortgage or their equity of their house? So you've got to be good at telling them, I'm going to solve your problem. That's who I am. I'm a problem solver. I'm going to make this happen. You're going to build common ground and rapport. Right now, it's real easy talking about the Rangers, right? So, but don't talk about a subject you don't know anything about. Okay, I'm not a big football fan, so I'm not going to talk about the Dallas Cowboys because I don't know who the players are. I don't want to make it look like I'm an idiot. So, but you want to build common ground. Oh, my daughter went to A&M. You went to A&M. Oh yeah, and we got that connection there. You know, I'm doing this and you're doing this. So you're going to go around that house and you're going to find a way to build that common rapport. You're going to ask open-ended questions. So why are you moving? How long have you lived here? Have you done any additions to the house? If you were to live here another 5 years, what would you do to the house? And that's when you're going to find out there's problems with the house. Well, I'd have the foundation fixed, that's for sure, because my plumbing's been bad. Oops, you know. So, and you always want to ask them if they can make one more payment, even if they're current. Hey, we're going to close on this December 1st. Can you go ahead and make December's payment? Sometimes they'll do it. That just made you a couple of grand or $1,000 at least. Okay. How to make sure they clean up the home when they leave. You want to make that very visible to them. You don't want to wind up with a bunch of furniture in that house and you have to hire the haul-off service to clean out the house. Okay, so in our classes, this is kind of what they look like right here. So we talk about when does a deal make sense? When do we make this happen? Okay, how to structure the deal, how to do that, how to do the paperwork. What kind of paperwork are you going to need? How to find the deals, how to find sellers. We talked about that earlier tonight. Some of us were in the back. We talked about that earlier tonight. Okay, how to find, there we go, true life examples. Okay, we have that in there. We've had lots of videos in there of people talking about the deals they've done. Okay, and how they put that together, how they found the seller, what they did on that basis. You want to know about the due on sale clause and what to do on that. Okay, it's real simple. The banks don't have due on sale please. Okay, but if you do something wrong, it's going to come up on their radar and they may not want to work with you. Okay, so you've got to know how to handle that, what kind of documents to have, what you're going to provide the bank if that raises up, if that comes together. And then what documents do I get from the seller? Because there's various documents you need to get from the seller. Okay, and selling process. So here's the house right here. Market value of the house is $295. The loan balance is $265. They got $30,000 in equity in this house. Why would they sell this house to you and give away this equity? Why would they do that? There's $30,000 there. Why would they walk away from that $30,000? Well, first of all, if they're going to list it, they're going to list it at $295 with a realtor. Then the realtor fees at 6%, it's going to be $17,900 on that, or $17,700. And then let's just say the title company and all the other fees associated with it is going to be about 3%, thereabouts. That's another $8,800. They're going to hold it for 90, 120 days. Be making their house payments. They're going to be making utility payments. Let's say that's $8,000. They're going to be making there for the next 4 months, a couple of grand a month. They're going to sell it with a realtor. They're going to list it. The buyer's realtor is going to have it inspected, and they're going to want them to do all these repairs. Okay, those of us who have been realtors for a while, even a new house, sometimes a new house needs more repairs than an existing house, but even a new house needs repairs. So it's going to cost them $39,000 to sell. They got a $30,000 equity in that property. They're going to be coming to the table with $9,900. Okay, this is what you got to get good at, explaining to them how your option is better than a realtor option. Okay, so that is just a typical answer. So we're gonna, what's in your plan? You've got to learn how to find motivated sellers. How are you going to find those motivated sellers? Where are you going to look? Okay, there's about 30 different ways in that book that you've got, but we go into detail of that in the online classes. Learn how to build a team. You need a team out there. You need to have a contractor. You need to have a plumber or electrician. You need to know a guy that does siding. You need to, know a guy that can do plumbing repairs on a sink. May not be a plumber, maybe a handyman, whatever it may be. Okay. HVAC guy, whatever. Okay. So if you're going to rent the property, you've got to learn how to find area rents. We go over that. We tell you how to find that so you can be competitive in that same market you're going into. And that's your cash flow. If you're going to sell the property, you've got to know what you can sell that property for. And you're going to need to know what your cost of selling that property is going to be, and understanding the value of cash flow. Everything to me is about cash flow. Somebody comes to me, they're wanting to sell their house. I want to know what that cash flow is going to be. I'm going to look at my exit strategies. Am I going to rent it? Am I going to owner finance it? Am I going to wholesale it out? Am I going to do a fix and flip? What am I going to do to that property? Can I afford it? Which one of those can I afford to do? Which ones can I put together? And what do I want to do? There's properties out there that in areas that I don't want to rent house in that area. If I can't send my wife to collect rent in the area that is and feel comfortable about it, I'm not going to own that house as a rental property. I may own or finance that out. I may sell it to another investor. Hey, give me $1,000, I'll give you this house. So learn the cost of property repairs. That's really important. You understand the cost of true cost of what repairs are. Okay. You're going to learn how to do wraps. Okay. There's a whole different beast there that we teach and how to do that. There's a law out there called SB 43, State Bill 43. It was passed into law about 3 Januaries ago, almost 3 years ago now. And it gives specifics when you're doing a subject to wrap, how you're to do that. Okay, state law telling us how to do subject to wraps. It's the same thing I've taught for over 15 years. I was very involved with that process of that. I say very, very involved for me. I wasn't down in Austin, but my state rep, her husband owns some rent houses, and we go to lunch about once a month. And we talked about it because we knew this law was coming up. I said it would be great if investors needed to use a servicer, because I see a lot of them doing this and they're making mistakes and they're not providing things requested by federal law. And it would be great if they used an RMLO, which is a residential mortgage loan originator. They write their loan documents. There's people out there pulling documents off of Google or whatever, and they're bad documents. It's going to get the rest of us more trouble than we want to deal with. So let's put the laws into place to make sure they're doing this stuff right. And that's what's in the SB 43, and that's what we teach in our classes. So the best process to pre-screen an owner. Okay, sometimes you don't want that owner with the angry ex-wife that's on the mortgage. You just kind of walk away from that. All right. Sometimes you just feel like you've got to take a shower after you talk to those people. You're going to be in business with them for the life of that loan. You may not want to do a deal with them. So you're pre-screening, you're finding out what their why is. Okay, there it is. Find their why. What to say to them. We have scripts, we have real life stories, we have all kinds of recordings in there, over 100 recordings, and what to say to somebody with a subject to. When to bring up the dollar. You don't immediately go in there and say, Mike, I'd like to buy this house from you on subject to. First of all, Mike doesn't have a clue because he's a homeowner. He doesn't have a clue what they're talking about. And then, so there's a way to do that. I never use the term subject to when I'm talking to a seller. I use the term creative financing. Oh, we can make this work with creative financing. Now, if I was to go out here and buy your house, and I have to borrow the money to do it, this is kind of where we're at. If you want to owner finance it to me, I can give you more because you're owner financing to me because I can control the terms. I don't tell them that, but I can control the terms. And then, I will make this happen, or we can do it. Are you okay with me just making your payments for you? You okay with that? Is that something that might work? And what to say to them, and what to say to them when they say, well, when's my name going to be off the loan? We have a complete recording on that. So, and then once again, what questions to ask. Now, in every loan, this is just a screenshot of one of the loans that I've done, and I've highlighted this area out here. And there is a due on sale clause in every mortgage I've seen. Have I seen every mortgage in the world? No, I have not. But it's in every mortgage I've ever seen. But it says in here, if any or
if all or any part of the property or the interest of the property is sold or transferred without lender's prior written consent, lender may, keyword there is may, require payment in full. They don't want to do that, but they have to have that in the paperwork. They have to have that in there just to cover their self. Okay. However, this option shall not be exercised by a lender if such exercise is prohibited by essentially local law, applicable law, local law. There's a law in Texas with subject to, been out there for 20 years, that if you have title insurance when you close on a property, the bank is forbidden to call the due on sale clause. Will every title company do title insurance? They can, but we have a complete series in there of what to say to a title company so you get that in place. Okay? So, anybody here ever closed on a house and seen a HUD-1? How many in here have seen HUD-1s? Okay, HUD-1s is a closing statement that you get. Do you know what line number 503 says in a HUD-1? Do you? Do you? You close on houses? You've seen HUD-1s? Go pull one out of your files tonight. Look at line number 503. This is line number 503. Existing loans taken subject to. The HUD-1 is a federal form that the title companies use. It's pre-printed in there. Thousands of these, so many of these subject to loans are done, they put it in the HUD-1. Okay, it's in every HUD-1. I've talked to title companies that don't know what that's in there, that don't know that's in there. Line number 503, it's in my book too. So you can see here that, and I'll point that out to title companies. But we don't, when we look at a HUD-1, as realtors, as investors, we're only looking at the stuff that has a number over to the side. We don't read the stuff that doesn't have a number next to it. So we never read this unless it's the subject to. Okay? And I have to bring this up to the title company all the time. Also, title companies will have a problem with title insurance. There's a 45-second conversation you can have with the title company, and every one of them will get it. Will every one of them close with the title insurance? No, because they're controlled by an attorney, and the attorney doesn't want to do creative deals. But most title companies will close when you have that 45-second conversation with them about how to structure the title policy. Okay? And, oh, there we go. So we go over how to fill out the contracts. Very detailed on how to fill those contracts out. Okay? And what you have actually, we have all the forms. I have a complete document section in there with more forms than you'll ever need. Now, if you're a realtor, a lot of them are the same forms, but I do have a subject to addendums. I have some disclosures that are not included in TREC or TAR. Okay, I've got contracts in there from other states, you know, promulgated realtor contracts from other states. So we go over how to fill these out, how to make that happen. You've got to be familiar with your documents when you go talk to a seller. If you're stumbling around, you don't know what the documents say, and first of all, they don't want to sign paperwork. They don't want to sign more than one signature. And if you bring out to them 40 pages of documents, anybody here Ebby Holiday? Okay, you know what I'm talking about though, right? Ebby Holiday has like 40 pages of documents. Every disclosure in the world. You know, if the aliens come and kidnap your husband, this is what we do at Ebby Holiday. So how to fill out your offers and the forms. But you want to be familiar with these. So every investor I work with, I also train realtors, get the TREC 1 to 4 party contract, print it out, read it once a day for 7 days. Don't read it 7 times in one day. Once a day for 7 days till you're familiar with it and you're not stumbling around in front of a client. Okay. And we talked about how to work with the title company. I mentioned that a while ago. How to set up your power of attorney. You've got to have a power of attorney. Okay. When you're doing a subject to. Now, so you have that in place. How to record your documents. You're not going to record them. The title company is. But you want to make sure they do them correctly. I've got a call from a gentleman in Florida a couple of months ago. He bought a subject to in 2017. He gave the guy $25,000 cash. He moved in the house. He did about $100,000 worth of improvements. The mortgage on the house at the time was $225,000. He closed at a lawyer's office. The lawyer was scared to death of the due on sale clause. So the lawyer didn't file the deed paperwork. And the deed of the property never went into the guy's name because it was not filed at the county. Well, the guy who had that property that sold it realized, oh, the deed's still in my name. And he sold it. There was $500,000 worth of equity on that property. This guy calls me up and says, how do I get this property back? I said, you don't. I said, your lawyer didn't file the deed, because he told me that. And I said, you've lost out. You're having to move. You're being evicted, and they have every right in the world to evict you out of this house because you've never owned the house. But I've made payments since 2017. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Your lawyer did not file that. So not all lawyers are familiar with this. I said, you can try to sue your lawyer, but I'm sure your lawyer told you that he wasn't filing it, that he's going to keep it in the file cabinet. He said, exactly. And I said, that was the wrong thing to do. You should have been educated. You just got a $500,000, really a $600,000 lesson on this property. So how to market to sellers, how to find sellers. We have a, once again, in the book, in the online classes. And what not to do. Okay, I see investors all the time doing the wrong thing. Okay, we talk about sample the real life deals. We talk about how to fill out the contracts. We talk about, once again, marketing to sellers, what phrases work, what you can say to somebody so they understand what you're doing. And this whole thing is about disclosing. You're going to disclose. Okay, how to work with a realtor, because realtors are hard to work with. They really are, especially when you need creative deals. Okay, how to deal with the mortgage company if they call you, and how to set it up so they don't call you. Okay, how to structure your insurance and exit strategies. Okay, so what you're going to do to get out of that property, if you need to get out of that property, you always plan ahead for that. These are two different areas in here. We have a subject to documents and resources and a Q&A call that we do every month, usually the third week of the month. And that's all online. These are the documents area here of what our different areas are in the documents. And so this is a sample of some of the forms we have. We have a checklist that you go down that checklist. It's what you do. It's what the other people do. Everybody involved. And so seller info sheet, we have contracts, addendums, disclosures, everything in there you can imagine. This is a property that we did up in Sapulpa, and 3-bedroom, 2-bath. The Wells Fargo loan was $109,000, and at the time of purchase, and closing costs and upgrades were $14,500. We got a $10,000 private loan. Had no money coming out of our pocket on this. The loan was at 7%. The private loan payments were $225. Mortgage payments were $958. We leased it $1,495, and we had a $312 cash flow on that property. Okay, so the ARV on that, once you see here, the loan was $109,000. We had to come up with $14,000, actually $24,000 at the time of close, because we gave the seller $10,000 for their equity, and we made that happen. But we got cash flow, and we got a lot of equity in that property. Okay, out-of-pocket cost for that investor was zero. Okay, for the two of us, we had no money out of our pocket. All the documents that you will need for the subject to documents, subject to deal is in the training site. Over 100 how-to videos. We have worksheets in there. Our monthly Q&A call. One-on-one mentoring is available with Karen or myself, however you want to work that, and more. So we have a rehab worksheet in there. So you just plug in the numbers. It's going to tell you what pretty much what your rehab has to be. You've got to find the numbers. Okay, you got to make that happen. And then we have a rental worksheet. You can plug in the numbers here. You can see what your cash flow is. You see where you're at on the rental and make sure that you're going to cash flow that property. So we just opened up 15 videos. It's a 2-minute video series that is included in this. And so we have all kinds of stuff in there, like subject to for beginners, what's an RMLO, what's a loan servicer, how to find an investor-friendly contractor, who does the background check for your renter, how to deal with a realtor when you're buying subject to, a little 2-minute video on that. Should be longer, but I do have other videos in there on how to deal with realtors. How to owner finance a property that has a mortgage. So yes, you can do that. We do it. That's called a wrap. Okay. Can I buy a subject to that has a reverse mortgage? No, but people ask that all the time. So I have that in there so you can go back and review that. Title companies tell you can't get a title policy. We talk about that, how to get a title policy. Why is the cash flow important? Where do I find documents for the subject to? We talk about where in the system we have that. How many years can I keep the original loan in place? I've got subject to properties that I've had for almost 20 years. So 18 years. 18 years. 2 properties, still subject to, still rental properties I've had for 18 years. Okay, so I have that. Seller wants to name off the loan. What can be done? Okay, you can't remove a seller's name off an existing mortgage. You can refinance it. You can sell it. You can get a private loan, but the seller's name is going to stay on there. So when a seller asks me, how long is my name going to be on that mortgage? I will tell them the life of that loan, however long that is. I'm not going to promise you that I'm going to have it paid off in 5 years, have your name removed, and get it refinanced. I don't know where interest rates are going to be in 5 years. Your loan's at 3%. Interest rates in 5 years could be 24%. Okay, I wasn't in real estate, but I was in business in the early 80s, and I watched interest rates go from 7% to 17% in 12 months. Okay, were people still buying houses? Yes. Were people still buying cars? Yes. They're buying smaller houses. They're buying smaller, really crappier cars. Okay, that's AMC Pacer, the Gremlin, the K cars, the throwaway cars that we had out there. Seller issues. What happens if a seller files for bankruptcy? How do you deal with that? I've had that happen several times. It's no big deal, but you've got to know what to say to the trustee. You got to know what to say to the seller. So every subject to I do, part of my disclosure, first of all, are you in bankruptcy or have you considered filing bankruptcy? So that's something that we work with. If you ever file bankruptcy, call me, let me know, because I'll need to talk to your trustee to make sure everything runs smoothly. So you don't have any he's not asking you questions you can't answer. And they'll call me up. It's never a problem. Every trustee I've worked with, they get it. They're like, okay, there's no equity. They don't own the property. They just have the loan in their name. Everything's good. We will not include the mortgage in the bankruptcy. Okay. So what happens if a seller dies? Okay, that's happened to me several times. And it's no big deal because you've already got everything in place. If you don't have everything in place, it's going to be a problem. Power of attorney dies when the person dies. Power of attorney is no longer any good the second that person dies. Okay, so you can't use that power of attorney, so you have to have everything in place before that happens. Okay, so we talk about step-by-step forms, learning from real-life examples, how to network with other investors, how to deal with the due on sale issues, not to get the deal closed. That's going to cost you money if you don't get the deal closed. Not to lose money on a bad deal or lack of knowledge, okay, and knowing how to close the deal. We go through all that is in there, and it's on demand. You don't have to worry about, oh, I have to go through this lesson to get this lesson to this lesson. No, you can skip around, and it's good for life. You sign up, you get it done. No recurring fees whatsoever. It's good for life. Okay, real life education. It's 1,000 times better than if you screw up. If you screw up, it's going to be difficult. Okay, knowing what to do and knowing what not to do. Not feeling lost, where to go, how to listen to what they have, what they say, and how to react to that. Okay, and knowing who to work with. You got to have the right title companies, the right attorneys, the right insurance agents. All that is very important when you're doing a subject to. Okay, real quick, David, $158,000 in equity. Marza, she did 2 of them, $155,000 in equity, 341. Derek, $60,000. Brad, $85,000. Tom in Woodland Park, $200 and almost $250,000 in equity. How cool is that? Okay. Lewis in Louisiana, $61,000 in equity. We have scripts, and these scripts work. Okay. For years, we've been refining these scripts, and we're always updating on the subject to site. So this is one today that came across my email. This is a wholesaler. Can you wholesale subject twos? Yes. Okay, this is Chris. He sends me stuff all the time. This is northeast of here, north of Princeton. And he's got the property. And so he started marketing at 237. I don't understand those two numbers, 237 and 242. Buy it now price. Okay, gotcha. Okay, so loan balance is 198,000, 237,000 is what what he's showing, but the loan balance is there, and he's asking for 43,000 in closing. Can you negotiate that with wholesalers? Absolutely, you can negotiate that. If he doesn't have anybody else on the table, you can really negotiate that because the property is going to go away. The interest rate's 4.5%. Escrow balance is negative 323. Market value on the rent is $2,750. PITI is $1,900. So you've got over $750 there every month in cash flow. Okay, and maturity date on this is 2061. Okay, I'll be 98 years old when that maturity hits. Okay, so that's crazy. Okay, so but this is a guy that sent me this email today, and he sends me an email about 3 times a week on subject twos that he's wholesaling out. You can wholesale out subject twos too. Okay, and back to the basis. What is in your bucket list? What do you want to do? Where do you want to be this time next year? Are you going to make this happen? Those of us that have the knowledge, that's what people pay for. Okay? That's how we get our deals. That's how we make things happen, is because we have that knowledge. So, in the books that you have, there's a QR code there. You get with Karen, and she can walk you through. So, the classes on this, the online classes, one-time fee of $475. And, I don't think we have, I think that was it. $475, one-time fee. You never pay again. You have access on it for life. You get the masterclass training, you get the Q&A call, and you get the documents. Documents, all this is being updated all the time. So you've gone through 3 years from now, you need to have a question answered. Hey, what did he say about VA loans? How do I do a VA loan on a subject 2? How do I do an FHA loan on subject 2? Can the seller buy another house once they've done a subject 2 with me? Yes, absolutely. Can I buy other houses that I own houses? Yeah. You know, I can buy other houses in my primary house. I can buy another primary house if I want to. Okay, and move, even though I have rental houses out there. Okay, so we can all have more than one mortgage, but the seller, you have to know what to tell the seller. I had a seller call me one time. She's just livid. She tried to get a loan. They wouldn't give her a loan because she had this subject 2 out there. And I said, I told you to call me if you're going to buy another house, and you're buying another house. So you didn't call me. Let me have the mortgage company. I'll call them. Call the mortgage guy. And he says, we don't have a problem with loaning her the money on a subject 2, but she told us it was her rent house and she couldn't provide any paperwork on it. We pulled the deed up and it wasn't in her name, but the mortgage was. She lied to us. We're not going to do business with her because she lied to us. She would have told us the truth at the beginning. We would have given her the loan. So Gabi Lockhart, which is one of the sponsors here, does these loans all the time for your seller. So when your seller says, can I buy another house? Now, there are restrictions on FHA and VA, and we go over that. We go over and what to tell the seller. Okay, I had a couple that were selling a house one time, subject 2, and they said, well, we don't know if we want to do this. We'll just let it go back to the bank. They had 2 boys walking in the living room. I said, one of those your boys? I said, both of them are twin boys. They're 14. I said, do you hope they go to college? Yeah. And it's a VA, it's an FHA loan. And I said, okay. So they're going to be going to college in about 3 to 4 years? Yeah, probably. And I said, hey, you got money set aside to finance them? No. What are they going to do? They're going to get a student loan. Do you think you might have to co-sign on that student loan? And they said, well, yeah, probably. And I said, okay, if you do and you've let a FHA loan go to foreclosure, you're not allowed to co-sign for them on a student loan because you had a government loan go bad and your kids can't go to college. They said, where do we sign? Where do we sign? Because now that was their why. Their kids were very important to them to go to college. Okay. So, any questions on how we do that? Yes. That's included. We do a Q&A call every month. We record them. So you'll be invited to every call that we do.
to ask questions or listen in or whatever you want to do. If you can't make it to the call, you can go back later and listen to them. And I'll put a title in there, kind of what we go over on each call. Usually 1 hour. People that are live on it, anywhere from a low of 10 to a high of 25. I have no idea how many listen to it after the fact. We don't have any way of knowing how many people listen to a call on Thinkific, do we? Watch a video? Maybe, yeah. Yeah, I think that's way down the list. You got more important fish to fry on that. So, but yeah, we don't know how many go back and listen to it that are signed up on the Sub 2 thing. We normally do it the third week of the month, usually on a Wednesday night. So we, unless it's Thanksgiving or Christmas or something like that. But we send that out. I do have a meetup site out there called Subject 2 Institute. That's on Meetup with the number 2 in there. Yeah, there you go. And so meetup site for that too, and we'll have all the stuff on there. Any live meetings that I'm doing is going to be on that meetup site, or is on that meetup site. So if you've got friends in another area like Shreveport, I've got one working right now in Shreveport that. No, it's nationwide, but it's based in Texas because that's where I'm at. But it's good for any. I've got a guy I'm negotiating with right now, wanting me to come to the Netherlands. I've got a lady that wants me to come to England, and a lady that wants me to come to South Africa. Well, I told the guy in the Netherlands I got to figure that out. The lady in England is giving me some information on that, because pretty much anybody that has a mortgage out there, but you have countries that don't have mortgages. Okay, you have countries out there that aren't investor friendly for investors. New Zealand will not let you own a residential property as a rent house. Isn't that crazy? So I've got a guy that comes out to East Texas once a year, buys houses. He doesn't buy them subject to, or he hasn't yet. But a real funny story, before I was married and had kids and I had money, because you get married and have kids, you don't have money anymore. You don't have time. Me and a buddy of mine, we'd travel somewhere around the world every year. We went to New Zealand to go to a Stones concert. How cool is that, right? You can't do that when you're married. But Patrick and I were there, outdoor amphitheater. Jagger gets up, he sings Satisfaction as his opening song, big, long stage outdoors. He gets done, Patrick and I are like lighting our cigarette lighters, yeah! And we look, and everybody else in the audience is proper English. Never stand up, they do this. It's like you can't even hear them clap. And Jagger stops and he says, well, it appears we have a couple of Americans in the crowd. Well, the guy from New Zealand, I was telling that story one day. I said, because he said he was New Zealand. Let me tell you my New Zealand story. And he says, I remember you. I said, you were at that concert? He said, I was Jagger's backup guitarist. Jagger talked about that through that whole Asian tour, about the 2 Americans that were in the crowd. So David and I see each other at least once a year, and it's pretty cool. He has no hair, but his pictures, I don't remember him on the stage, but he had, like almost down to his waist, and he has no hair today. So I have hair. People had question, but I may not always. So it's a small world out there, but there's areas out there you can invest in. I was in Nigeria a few years ago, and they think that every house is for sale unless you paint on the side of the house, not for sale. So it's like spray painted on the side of the house or paintbrush, not for sale, so they don't have people knocking on their door. I'll buy your house. I don't want to sell it. Well, you don't have not for sale on it. So, any other questions of what we do? Land trust. Yeah, land trust. So, and we actually have a module coming on with Randy Hughes. You were at the Randy Hughes thing. Yeah, so I was on the phone yesterday with Randy. I'll be on the phone with him tomorrow. So we do have, we do suggest you look into that. Do every subject to has to be in a land trust? No. It makes it easier for me. Makes it real easy if you're doing a wrap and the buyers understand their land trust. And you've got to educate the buyers what the land trust is, because they won't understand what that is. Okay.
but it makes it really simple, and it's a really easy, cheap transition at the title. You know, you don't even have to really title company. We do it, but you're not getting a title. You're not getting a new title policy. Um, you're not having to do anything. You know, it's just, and it's not recorded at the county, so the taxes don't go up because the sale's not recorded on a sales on a land trust.
So since you've done those, would you like partake in helping your students with that too?
Yeah, so we're having the Randy Hughes module on there. We're in negotiations on that. It's overwhelming. Um, that's why we're putting it online. Right. 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 Or you're daydreaming. Yeah.
Or you're writing down questions.
Right. Right. So, but so we're getting that recorded. Randy already has it recorded. We're going to have those broken into small segments. That's the whole training. Nothing's more than 15 minutes. Most everything is going to be 5 to 10 minutes, unless it's the 2-minute module area that is given a basic. Because what we want to avoid on that is when I go online and I hear something and I have to go back and listen to it again. It's our recording. I don't know where it's at, and then right when it gets to it, something happens and I miss it, and then I go, "Did I miss that?" So we having subjects in there that are broken into these little short segments that are easy to jump to, and you can jump around anywhere you want to go. Everything's built into a module, so you have a marketing module, you have all the different types of modules that are in there. In mine, that's in mine. We're going to try to duplicate that as much as we can, Randy. We're infancy, we're in the infant area on getting that done for Randy and making that happen. There's a lot of moving parts to that.
To be quite honest, I purchased it and now I haven't even seen it. You know why? Because I'm going to try and find my next deal.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So if I could have little segments, you tell them.
Right.
If I could have little segments that I listen to in the evenings after dinner, whatever, great.
Mm-hmm.
But when he's got all this slew of stuff on a disc, I don't know where to go.
That's why we're trying to avoid. That's what I've done on the subject too.
I have the original, the one that he, did. I guess I'm online. I mean, I've got.
You have the access to. You should have access for. Yeah.
I know I do.
Yeah.
So I guess I should just. I don't know how often he's online to do it. I guess I just get on, hop on. And,
Well, he has it recorded too on his.
okay.
So, but it's not in short sessions, and he doesn't have his all-day Saturday thing online that I know of. He might. Right. And I've been on those calls with him. So, but yes.
Okay. Just out of curiosity, how did you find the job at the poorhouses again? Did you say?
I told Mike earlier when he first got here, I took a very expensive class in Arizona, and the whole week I'm taking that class on creative financing. I'm calling all my contacts, or not all of them. I'm calling a bunch of contacts, and I'm saying, hey, if you know anybody that's kind of upside down in their house, or somebody that really needs to move, they don't have the equity in their house, or they don't want to list it with a realtor or whatever, let me know. So that one came a referral through another investor I have, and he was the optometrist, and he. So I got back on Saturday. He called me right after I got back. I said, let's meet tomorrow morning. Why don't you give me your addresses? So my wife wrote them down. We're on our way back from the airport. She wrote down the addresses. So I was able to do some due diligence on that. We struck a deal on Sunday. He came over after church on Sunday. I sat down in my office. We did a contract on all 4 houses. He was happy. I agreed to give him $1,000 per house, but then he had to credit me back the deposits, which were over $4,000. So for $4,000, I agreed to give him, and he gave me back $5,500, somewhere in there. So yes. Pardon me? April with 7 houses, yes. No, they were not bank owned. She went to a local bank that had them all mortgaged, and she was buying the 2 duplexes. And that recording, I have her recording online. So that recording is on there. Yeah. No, she wholesaled 5 of them. No, you can't. No, absolutely can't. But she had the opportunity to. She didn't want them. They were in areas that she didn't want. East Texas got a lot of little bitty towns out there, and she's just that's not in my market area where I want to own a house. So so the bank has actually told her, has the seller told you they have 5 other houses? No. Talk to the seller because we'd love to work a deal with her on those. And she did. April and Zach did that. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I have something about bankruptcy. If you can buy one the bankruptcy filed, if I can buy once bankruptcy is filed, since they can't get a statement from the service.
So if they've ever filed bankruptcy in the past,
Right.
and it's been discharged or it wasn't approved or whatever, they didn't follow up with it, which most people don't follow up with bankruptcy. The mortgage company is no longer allowed to send a mortgage statement.
So how do you get
You go online.
a
I have a whole module on that, how you get that information, and that's very important that you get online access to a mortgage before you close, and you keep online access to that. I set all mine up to be auto paid the 25th of every month. So I never have a property other than this month. Mr. Cooper, they got attacked. I got an email, two emails so far. Did you get that email? Did you hear about it? Huh? No, you can't. And so, and who knows, whatever, China, Russia. What's that? But they said they won't record it as a late payment or whatever, but it's an auto draft. So I have all mine as an auto draft on the 25th. And so that way, if I ever get a call from the bank and they say, hey, we saw that the deed has changed and we're not sure about this, we can foreclose on you. Yes, I know, but are you going to foreclose? Well, we don't, they're not going to answer that. Okay. So, huh? Right. So I'll tell them, look at the history of the loan and tell me what you see. This is the date that I bought it. What was the payment schedule before then? It's always 30 days, 90 days, like whatever. Okay, has it been late since this date? No. Are you going to foreclose on a performing loan? We can. Yes, I know you can, but are you? If they keep arguing with you, say, can you put this on your list to review in 90 days? If there's a problem, call me back and we'll take care of it. I've never gotten a call back.
So what you're saying is you can do, if they file bankruptcy, you can pick it up subject to, but you can only go online to look their.
Yeah, and you don't want it way behind on payments because you have to bring that equity or that not equity, late payment to the table.
How did you advertise about a home to own finance?
I list them in the MLS, and I put in the MLS that I'll own or finance. And you'd be surprised how many realtors are out there that have clients that need owner financing.
So with your owner financing, what would be the percentage of the homes that you have that you owner finance that you literally got from the MLS to owner finance?
That I bought? Or that I, well, what I'll do is I'll put it up for rent. And I won't put it in there as for sale for owner finance, but I'll put in the rent information, make sure that the realtors know it. It's in the MLS. That I will own. I would love to. I literally say I would love to owner finance this house to your clients when they're ready in a couple of years. If they owner finance it in a year, I will. If they owner finance it after the first year, I'll give you your full 3% commission to the realtor.
Oh, okay. If you're selling.
Right. So if they've owner financed it in 5 years, I'm going to give that realtor their 3% if they're still a realtor. I don't ever say that, but that's you can't give a commission if they're not. Okay. And if they go in and they owner finance it, what I'm saying here, if they owner finance it in less than a year, I'm going to deduct the amount that I paid them on the rental, which is, 25, 30%, 40%, whatever it is. So whatever I decide to do, whatever the market demand is. So if I paid them $800 as a commission on the rental, I'll deduct the $800 from their 3% if they finance it or if they owner finance it in less than a year. If it's more than a year, I'll give them the full 3%. And so.
That you come back
I've got one out there that's been 8 years now, and I continue the conversation with the realtor that brought them. Said if they ever own, that's the one that she spends some money every Christmas on her grandkids, and I'll give her an update every January. Well, they can't do it, but I still have you on the list. I'll still pay you because she lives down the street from that rent house, and I've got several in that neighborhood, and I want her to bring me other clients if my rent houses come empty. But I don't have turnover on renters. Very low turnover.
I have another question. How do you help somebody with reverse mortgage?
You can't. You can't.
Yeah. You can buy it. Have a mortgage.
I had a house behind me I didn't know about, but a wholesaler bought it. The guy that lived behind me, I saw him a few times. He was in a wheelchair. My dad talked to him all the time. Mom and dad lived with us. They moved in 23 years ago. For 6 months, they're still there. He's 93. So it is. I get to sit down and sometimes I hear the same story a dozen times, but that's okay. But I'll hear stuff that I never knew. So he had 2 uncles that he grew up around that fought in the Civil War. My dad did. You know, pretty awesome on that. They were too young for guns. They dug mass graves as young teenagers. That was their job. So, but like I said, but the old man across the street behind us, he got a reverse mortgage. He got 2 payments before he died. His son did not have $14,000. No, I'm sorry, $7,000 to pay off the reverse mortgage. So they foreclosed on him. The investor that I work with bought the house for $7,000, and he sold it as a wholesaler for $14,000. He could have made more money, but so somebody came in and all the walls were dinged up because the guy's in a wheelchair. He's bouncing off the walls all the time. So, any other questions? Yes, ma'am. I will my business plan is I will rent them. My preferred rental is 2 years that I'll rent them out, and then I'll owner finance them to the seller. I'll work hard to owner finance them to the seller. Okay. Uh-oh. Why am I doing it 2 years? Well, I make money. Okay. I'm betting on the value of the house to go up in 2 years. The value of the house is going to go up. They're paying my mortgage. They're paying my taxes and insurance, and it's long-term capital gains tax instead of short-term. So I'm saving tax money.
So when you rent, the seller, the first seller, does he or she knows about it?
Totally disclosed. Everything is disclosed. As everything about subject to is disclosed. If you don't do that, you're going to get in trouble. You're going to get the angry ex-wife sending a letter to the bank.
Well, it's not that, but if you're subject to an FHA loan, they can't turn around and buy another house FHA.
Unless it's 100 miles away.
Unless it's see, I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. So they can buy. You can only have one FHA loan at a time, unless it's 100 miles away or more. And FHA, they will do an exception. Okay.
And then even
VA, you're limited. So if you were in the service and you qualify for a $300,000 VA, and you have a house out there that you owe $150,000 to, you can only buy another $150,000 on the VA because your total is $300,000. So they'll let you use the rest of it. You know, normally it's higher than that, but so it just gives you an example there. You can have more than one VA, but it has to fall into their values that they are qualified for. So.
I'm going to go ahead and just say thank y'all all for coming. Y'all can stay.
Yes, I'll be here.
I was holding my hand to leave because the meeting is over. It's 8:30. So thank y'all all for coming. And I'm going to reach over. I guess I can leave this up while we're still having this discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, yeah. You got a big picture of my belly because I walked up like this at one time. And, yes, ma'am. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, we don't. I still haven't filled in the subject to upgrade, the advanced. I still haven't. I still have not filled that in yet, and Tyler has not opened that up for me to. Tyler's my web guy back here. It's going to be advanced. It's going to be more to the advanced, like Terry was saying a while ago about the wraps. More advanced on the notes on the trust. I'm sorry. Just more advanced stuff as they come through. The basics has 99% of the stuff in there. The advanced, we haven't come up with a price on it. I haven't filled in those. Pardon me? 197. I have people that call me up that all they want is the documents. They don't want anything other than the documents. They've been doing sub-2s for years, whatever it may be. That's for those people. All right. Jen, thanks for coming. So I have people that call me up. I do subject twos all over the country, and Pace Morby. I don't know if you know him or not. He wrote the foreword to my book, but he refers out a lot to the people that aren't in his program for the documents and for coaching. I do a one-on-one coaching. Pace doesn't do that. He's too many people. He has people that does that for him, but his coaching is a lot more than what I charge. So yeah, and it will continue to go up. But and he has a community. We have a community too, but he's got a massive community. So that's what you're buying into. But what I'm finding on, thank you so much. What I'm finding on, not only with Pace, but a lot of these other gurus that are out there, whether it's subject to or whatever, they start up their own meetup groups and they've never done a property. And I'm running into those guys, and I'm like, what are you doing here? Why are you doing that? Well, I've been through. I'm in Pace's training, and we're trying to start up a community, and That's fine, but don't sell yourself as being the subject to expert when you're not. You're going to get in trouble, So, but once again, Pace is a great friend. Yes, ma'am.
So I've had a lot of expense, like surgery stuff. Can I pay half today, half later?
No, we don't have a way to do that. I'm sorry.
I mean, okay, well, I was gonna say I could see it the next meeting.
So what you can do is you can sign up for the free preview, and then at any time you want to upgrade, you can upgrade. That's going to be on the home page, and it's a big yellow banner on there that says sign up for a free preview. It should know that same one. Let's see what you've got. Okay, I
did this one.
Okay. Tyler, is there a way that she can get into the free preview with Karen's QR code? Yeah. Substituteinstitute.com, and then on the home page there's a banner there that says, and there's only a handful of courses that are on there, or a handful of videos, should I say, that are open. Yeah. So yeah, with the number 2.